Hi everyone, it's Keren here. Welcome back to my channel. For the past couple of weeks, I've been diving into the world of stencils. I made an amazing technique video about stencils about a couple of years ago, and it's really been one of the most sought out videos that I have on my channel, and I figured that I could really dive in a little bit more and explain a little bit more about stencils. I have done videos on many different techniques. 2 weeks ago, I did one on all about stencils, basically explaining everything about them, from the thickness to the colors to how, like, what products to use and so forth. Then I did another video explaining 5 different products that can be used on the stencil and how to use them. Today, I really want to kind of dive into a different thing that is will help, especially for people that are beginners that don't know how to use it, and that is the do's and don'ts of stencil. What you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and how to apply different things in order for you to get those images and not stress out about using stencils, because I know that a lot of people get stressed out about it. I just want to remind you to please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do try to give a lot of technique-based videos and focus on art journaling and mixed media, and I hope you like that. And I also have an Instagram channel. It's Tamir_art. So that's another place you can find most of my stuff. And at the same time, I have a YouTube group, Keren, Tamir and Friends Creative Space, where you can join, and it's a safe place to share projects inspired by some of my products, some of my videos, and just basically it's a safe place for that, and just to share whatever it is that you got inspired by. So today I want to dive into the first thing that you basically shouldn't do or should do with stencils. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link all the videos from the stencils from the previous videos underneath. That way you can go and refer to them as well, because they have a lot of helpful explanations and also information about stencils, and that will help you, especially if you're a beginner, but not only for a beginner, because I do explain a lot more about stencils and how they work. So one of the things that I think most people struggle with is basically adding the right amount of product. Whether it is paste or ink or spray or acrylic paint, it is really difficult to kind of gauge how much product you should use in order to not have it run underneath the stencil, because you do want to get that crisp image. Now, usually you're not going to have a problem with inks. That is not something that you will have a problem with, but you will have a problem with things like sprays or even acrylic paint if you add too much. Now, if you add, for example, acrylic paint, something like this, with a sponge, and you just sponge it along, you're not going to get any type of run underneath. So if I go like this and I sponge it through, I'm going to get that perfect crisp image. So that is a do for stencil. So even with this, sometimes you can see that I might have pressed too hard here. So the do is to press lightly. So let's try this again. If I press lightly on my background, you will get that perfect image. But if you press too hard, or if you rub back and forth, you might not get that. So it all depends on how you apply it. So this is the point. If you can see that when you apply a lot of paint, like I did up here in the circle, I'm going to get that running effect a little bit more. Not always, but it depends on how I add it. A good way to get rid of this is to actually apply tape all around here. So you could actually use something like masking tape or painter's tape and just kind of hold things into place. So for example, you're holding the stencil into place, whether it is here or here, and that way it will not move when you're applying it. So that's a really good technique. This is a do. There's also a spray adhesive that you can spray behind the stencil, and that will help as well. The do's of using a stencil is that you don't want to use a lot of product. But depending on the product that you're using, the mistakes could happen, and for me, I don't mind if that happens because it's part of the texture, but some people really don't like that. So for that matter, you can always use ink. But again, the more ink and the more paint that you use, the more you're going to get that running underneath. So you can see in this one why I got that is because the paint was very thick. With sprays, you can get a similar problem. So for example, in spray, I said in the previous video, you should use it at a 45-degree angle, but it depends how close you are that you will get more of that run in. So for example, if you're really close to the page and you add a lot of product, you can get that really globby effect, like you will have things running. However, if you do the same thing from further away, it will be more like a spray, but you're going to get, you might not get as an intense color, but you're not going to get that run underneath. So it depends on the look you want. If you want that drippage effect, then definitely hold it closer. If you want it to look more like a spray paint, oops, that was from my finger, don't mind that. If you want it to look more like a spray paint, then hold it a little bit further. And you can also hold it, for example, a little bit further, but add sprays more time, right? So that will make it a little bit darker, but it will still give you a really nice crisp effect. So the closer you are, the harder it is to get that crispness in this with the stencil. Now, I want to just show you what would be the same thing if you're adding paste. So that's a similar thing that happens, that if you add too much paste, you can get that same problem. With paste, it's a little bit different, and you could tape it if you wanted to the background. I don't need to because I just learned how to use it and hold it. But if you don't know how to do that and it's difficult for you, then please, by all means, either use the adhesive spray or use tape around it. Now I'm going to do an area here, and I'm going to actually put a lot of material on it. I'm going to be very generous with it and see what happens. You see, I get that really thick, and I'm going to show you really thick texture and not even. So in that sense, it is sometimes better to smooth things out. So if I smooth it out like this, and I put a thinner layer, you want to make sure that everything is covered, but thin enough that everything goes smoothly. You're going to get a much crisper effect. And you can see the difference between one and the other. So the amount you add makes a huge difference on how things are going to look and how crisp the image is going to be. Another very important thing about stencils is to know in which direction the stencil is going. So that's a do and don't, and it's really important. Because with stencils, the way they're cut out, you have these areas where the stencil could lift up and things could get caught in it. So for example, if you're, let's say, daubing with some kind of sponge, the sponge could get caught in those really sharp edges, and if you're going against the grain, it could really lift up. The sponge is short, it's soft enough that might not happen, but then you get into places like this where you have to be very careful when you're adding it, because what could happen is that you could, like, you know, see, it could get caught in that, and then what it happens is that it lifts. This is maybe not the greatest example. I was trying to really show you, but you get my drift, okay? Maybe I'm not making that mistake because I'm so used to using stencils that I just know how to use them, and that doesn't happen. I know that this happens for a lot of people, and it happened here. This is a perfect example. You see, like this, like gets caught. So what the trick of it is to, if you know that this is going to get lifted up because it's all standing alone, you want to go against the grain, okay? You want to be able to go against it. So that way it does not lift up. You want to make sure right here, these circles might lift up, so you're going to go first on this direction and then in the other direction. So there is directions for the stencils. And this is what I mean by cleaning your stencils. This is a perfect example, and that is point number 3. So I'm jumping from point number 2 that you are supposed to kind of go from one place to the next. And this was a perfect example. My point number 5 was actually cleaning your stencils, even though I mentioned it before. But it just happened naturally that I'm just showing you why you should clean your stencils. Because if you don't clean your stencils, which I didn't, I am known for that, probably had some ink or some spray. Well, this is what happens. Besides, if you get something like paint on it or ink on it, and then you're gonna go use it and you didn't clean it, you're gonna get the color from underneath. And it really, really is not the best thing that can happen to you if you're creating this amazing project and then suddenly you get this brown on top. Okay, so make sure that whatever you have, some things don't remove itself. So for example, you can see that if I go in this area, I'm not gonna get brown. The difference is that this was acrylic paint and this was ink or spray. The spray will mix itself and will reactivate itself back again. While this one is paint. Paint just dries up and it's permanent. So if you didn't clean your inks or your sprays, that's something that you should do. And the main point is here, I can give you a perfect example. When I didn't clean the paste, I was in the middle of a show and I couldn't clean this stencil. And what happened is that now I need to get this cleaner spray called Crud Cutter, which is supposed to be amazing. I can't wait to try it. And I'm going to clean this out. I do have a whole video about cleaning stencils with other things, and I just discovered in this new product that my friend Tiffany and Nicole told me about. So I really want to try it and I can't wait. So there are ways of cleaning it after, but if you don't want to get into this mess of having to clean everything afterwards, or you don't want this to happen to you where in the middle of a project you suddenly added this and it becomes brown, you are not going to be happy, trust me, because you cannot really technically remove it. Okay, so you see what happened here when I'm cleaning this? This is lifting up. So point 2 and point 3 are kind of together in one. So you have to be very careful in which way the direction is going, and you have to make sure that you clean your stencils. So that is the main thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, this effect looks amazing. So that's a really cool technique that I've showed in other videos where you put ink on top of a stencil and then you add paste. But that's not what I was trying to show you here. So if you know what I mean, is make sure you clean your stencils so you don't this doesn't happen to you. For the last points, which is points 4 and 5 of the do's and don'ts with stencils, I just realized that I actually touched upon them on the first point that I had made, because I guess I made the first point be 3 different points, which doesn't make sense. But trust me when I say that, because what I had written down of the 5 points, one of them is to basically use tape to actually hold your artwork together. And that's really important, especially for a beginner. So I did mention it before. You can also use something called pixie spray, which you spray it on the back of a stencil. But this truly works well, and this is why I love when stencils have a little bit of an edge, because you can really hold things and put them into place, especially if you're using surfaces like this, or let's say if you want to use it around, because stencils are flexible, so you could like add this around this and tape it so it works. So stenciling, gluing stenciling, especially when you're doing things with a lot of medium, or if you've not mastered holding it like the way that I've done, because I right now don't use it anymore, and I don't care if I make mistakes, but some people do. So what I suggest to you is to actually tape it all around. I don't need to show you, but I'm telling you that you should tape it all around. And that helps it to really hold it into place. So when you're actually spraying it really, or adding media, it really helps. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So if I go here and just spray, it will happen and it will just give you a really nice effect. I did this before just holding my stencil, and I know how to do that. But if that stresses you out, gluing it down is a great tool that you can use with stencils. The fifth and last thing you shouldn't do, I touched upon it before, but I really want to show you why this is so important. And even though I have taped it and everything, if you holding your spray way too close and add a lot of ink, it is the natural progression of the liquid to actually go underneath. And we're going to test it. Maybe it won't, but I have a feeling that even though I taped it, it will still happen, because you shouldn't hold the spray too close to the stencil. That's something that unless you want a drippage, like I said before, you shouldn't hold it so close. So let's see. Yes, you see what I mean? When I held it further away, it gave me that perfect impression. So this is what I mean. You don't want this pooling to happen. Make sure you hold your spray at a further distance. And that's basically my 5 techniques. And that's basically my 5 do's and don'ts of stenciling. So I really hope these techniques of do's and don'ts with stencils helped you. And if they did, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends, because I really feel that some of you didn't know about these techniques and how to do them. You might, then probably somebody else as well does not know about them. So it's really good to share, and it really helps me to support my channel. So I hope you enjoyed this. I would love for you to follow me on Instagram, give this a thumbs up, and if you want to join my Facebook group, Keren, Tamir, and Friends Creative Space, you can do that as well. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you like my stencil do's and don'ts, and have an amazing day. Bye!